The CIA has not only been overthrowing governments around the world to protect Western capital since its inception, it also has become somewhat of a capitalist itself. In this video, I'm going to talk about the history of the CIA's venture capital fund, In-Q-Tel, how it works, and a few of its investments, some of which are now owned by high-profile companies. Founded in 1999 by Norm Augustine, former CEO of Lockheed Martin, and Gilman Louie, In-Q-Tel's first CEO, the firm was meant to outsource research and development to the private sector. In-Q-Tel invests in tech startups all over the world whose commercial technologies can not only benefit the CIA, but the intelligence community more broadly. But I bet you're asking yourself something. Why the hell can the CIA invest in private companies? To figure that out, we have to go in the Wayback Machine to the year 1775. During the Revolutionary War, the Second Continental Congress created something called the Committee of Secret Correspondence. The committee was used to gather intelligence from foreign countries and individuals that were sympathetic to the American Revolution. But of course, this costs money. So Congress gave the authority and funding to cover expenses of correspondence and the agents in the field. There were, of course, other spy operations at the time. For example, George Washington had a massive network of spies in the colonies. But the unique thing about the committee was its broad authority to spend without reporting the specifics to Congress. Justifying this authority, Benjamin Franklin, chairman of the committee, basically said there were too many chatty Cathys in Congress who couldn't keep secrets. And thus the precedent was set. Almost 200 years later, the Central Intelligence Agency Act of 1949 gave the CIA similar discretionary power. The CIA Act only required a sum of expenditures, and they didn't have to get specific as to what they were spending it on. What set the CIA apart from the committee and even its predecessor, the OSS, was its emphasis on research and development. The CIA really viewed R&D as part of its mission. Things like the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, and the Corona spy satellite program came from CIA R&D programs. So much cool spy tech emerged from the CIA that members of the Directorate of Science and Technology were given the nickname the Wizards of Langley. With the end of the Cold War, the government could no longer justify a massive defense budget and wanted to reap the so-called peace dividend. With the emergence of the internet age combined with CIA budget cuts, private sector tech companies soon surpassed the CIA's supremacy in R&D. The CIA was starting to get some serious FOMO and wanted to get in on the action. Director of Central Intelligence at the time, George Tenet, commissioned a study showing that information technology was the future of technological advancement. Given the increase of satellites, fiber optics, interlinked computers and databases, IT was crucial for the CIA to operate effectively and not get left behind. So the head of Directorate of Science and Technology, Dr. Ruth David, suggested the CIA outsource a portion of its R&D efforts to the private sector. David realized that the CIA couldn't compete in the field of IT innovation at the same speed and agility as the private sector, as it operated on internet time and was driven by the profit motive. After talks within the CIA and with leaders in the private sector, the idea of a CIA-backed venture capital fund was born. Although this type of public-private partnership was a novel concept, it fit in with the broad discretion granted to the intelligence community since 1775. The CIA approached Norman Augustine, former CEO of Lockheed Martin, to serve as its founder. The CIA felt that Augustine had the experience and passion necessary to start the corporation. In February 1999, the CIA chartered In-Q-Tel as a private, independent, non-profit corporation incorporated in the state of Delaware. The firm was not meant to make money for the CIA. Rather, according to its charter, it was to exploit and develop new and emerging technologies and pursue R&D that produced innovative solutions to the most difficult problems facing the CIA and intelligence community. Shortly after In-Q-Tel opened for business, an article described it as a tale of James Bond meets venture capitalist. The CIA intentionally named the firm In-Q-Tel as a reference to Q, the MI6 quartermaster responsible for the gadgets in the James Bond series. Unfortunately for the CIA, there was a cultural and generational gap with the agency in Silicon Valley. They needed to find someone who wasn't old and crusty, which is how the CIA was perceived. They ultimately landed on the charismatic 39-year-old Gilman Louie for the CEO role, and with great enthusiasm, he accepted the job offer. Louis was a very successful entrepreneur in Silicon Valley in the video game industry, having sold his company for millions in his early 20s. With fresh leadership, In-Q-Tel would also not be tied down to the CIA's organizational structure. This combination enabled In-Q-Tel to attract young tech startups in Silicon Valley, and eventually the whole world. Before In-Q-Tel, the CIA would have a bidding process if it wanted assistance from the private sector. The problem was the technology would eventually become obsolete, so they'd have to start over the whole process. In-Q-Tel allowed the CIA more flexibility and a streamlined process to obtain cutting-edge technology. An office in the CIA called the In-Q-Tel Interface Center, or QIC for short, serves as the intermediary between the CIA and In-Q-Tel. The QIC lets In-Q-Tel know what challenges the CIA is facing and to make investments based on those challenges. When In-Q-Tel makes an investment, it's typically between $500,000 and $3 million. Similar to traditional venture capital firms, In-Q-Tel takes an advisory position on a portfolio company's board of directors. This allows the CIA to know about any changes to the company or its products very quickly. It also gives the CIA some indirect control as In-Q-Tel acts as a general advisor to the company. If you're curious how profitable the firm is, you're out of luck. In-Q-Tel does not publicly disclose their returns. However, according to Louis in 2005, the firm made a cumulative return of 26% in the 6 years since its founding. I'm surprised he's still alive after saying that. Just kidding. Any profits In-Q-Tel makes are reallocated to new projects. Speaking of which, here are some of the investments In-Q-Tel has made over the years. I think the last one might really shock you. The first company shouldn't come as a surprise. Not only was In-Q-Tel an early investor at $2 million, it was also Palantir's only customer for years as the company improved its technology. If you want to learn more about Palantir and some of the terrible things it's doing, check out my video in the right-hand corner. With the rise of social media, the CIA realized there was a potential treasure trove of intelligence in user-generated content. One of In-Q-Tel's investments, Dataminer, is able to take this fire hose of content, perform some technological sorcery, and spit out actionable insights on behalf of its clients, including governments and law enforcement agencies. Another In-Q-Tel-backed venture, Geopedia, geotags people based on their social media messages to monitor breaking news events in real time. The company markets its ability to track active protests on behalf of law enforcement and corporations. I think most of us have used Google Earth to spy on random strangers at some point in our lives. Well, we have the CIA to thank for that. The technology for Google Earth originated from In-Q-Tel-backed startup Keyhole Incorporated and was used for defense mapping databases. Google acquired the company in 2004 as more of its searches were related to geospatial concerns. Okay, this last one is friggin' weird. In 2022, In-Q-Tel partnered with a company that's basically trying to create a real-life Jurassic Park. And as we all remember, nothing bad happened in that movie. Colossal Biosciences is using gene editing technology to resurrect extinct animals like the woolly mammoth. Okay, so why the fuck is the CIA interested in this company? Well, according to the In-Q-Tel website, it's less about the mammoths and more about the capability. The next wave of progress in synthetic biology will lead to advances in our ability to shape both form and function in organisms at the macroscopic level. So I'm not entirely sure what that means. Like, are they trying to create superhumans or what? I don't know, but that sounds creepy as hell. So not only is the CIA investing in companies that track our every move, read all of our social media messages, but also in companies that can turn us all into Cronenberg monsters. Well, there you have it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, punch that like button, and subscribe.